Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Please Get Help. Gentlemen, this time would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hello, it's me, the Toji, or Lord Gato, if you know my other channel.
So far, Taz has just sent a skeleton emoji and the perplexed cat emoji. Uh,
This is I'll introduce him for him. That was not proper English, but whatever. This is Taz. Taz is Taz. He's pretty
yeah.
Taz.
And I am Jack Thunderbolt, the harebrained guy behind doing this. Uh, so it's another Western special. Birdie, please, no, don't knock over my computer, please. My dog is trying to get up onto the, I guess, a lazy uh, fucking recliner couch. It's like two recliners with a console thing pushed together. Not as in gaming console, as in like the middle of a car, between the driver and passenger seat. Anyway, oh, guess what I found out today?
War.
They're making a they're making a new adaptation of the Louis L'Amour novel. It's for the book Flint, and it's gonna start filming this year. So I'm real excited because I guess you all know I really like Louis L'Amour. I have way too many of his books. Uh, if you want to read Louis L'Amour, his short stories are very easy to get into. Any of his novels are very easy to get into. Everything is self-contained in its own stories. But they do sometimes there are series or reoccurring characters. Uh, the Sackett family, his most famous, usually revolves around the brothers Tell, Orin, and Tyrell, and it's their adventures out in the West. Like Orin and Tyrell becoming cattlemen and then becoming mayor and sheriff of the town of New Mexico, Tell Sackett finding a gold mine, etc., etc. Uh, I will warn you, if you're gonna buy books from Barnes and Noble, especially the like big collections of the short stories they have, uh, those things fall apart. They are not made well. It's like I've had to glue two of them back together because the pages keep coming out of spine. I'm not talking single pages. I'm talking like decent chunks.
The whole thing
Like
just explodes.
yeah, like chapters are falling out. I've got one on the table right now. I glued this morning, and I put a full 24 pack of Pepsi on top of it to keep it together. So, which is so. In short, read Louis L'Amour. Be careful of the quality of the Barnes and Noble books. Which is weird. I haven't had any of those problems with the other Barnes and Noble's books. Which, I mean, Louis L'Amour has always been made cheaply. It's very much pulp fiction. It's like I think the hardcovers are like a very new thing, and that's for the Sackett family series of books. But yeah, I haven't had any problems like that with other books. But and then
Hey,
finally, new Western movie of a Louis L'Amour novel, which brings me into our first topic: movies that should be made into RPG games. And the very loosest definition, an RPG is role-playing game. Usually, you make your own character and you enter a world and you interact with uh the world and the other characters and the enemies of that world. Though it's not off no, not always your own custom character. I'm pretty sure the Kingdom Come Deliverance games count as an RPG, even though you play a set protagonist, Henry Escalix. Excuse me. What?
Yes.
Okay, I should really rein myself in. If you're watching this, you probably already know what an RPG is. Uh, so this is probably on the spot, but do either of you have one or two movies that you would want to be made into RPGs? Uh,
I will have to think about it for a minute.
uh, it's safe to say that there are some that are, I guess, have already been gamified, or it's just obvious they're RPGs like Star Wars and The Lord of the Rings. Those are like RPG movies almost. It's granted, Tolkien and Lord of the Rings invented modern fantasy as we know it. And then Star Wars is also completely turned sci-fi on its head when it first came out. So I was watching the extra credit series once for the history of sci-fi, and for some reason, they focus a lot on dystopian series. And then in their finale episode, which was about Star Wars, they basically talked about how Star Wars came in, and then dystopians kind of went out the window. Which I guess kind of understandable because it's Star Wars. It's a space swashbuckler or a space samurai movie. And then there are others that have turned into kind of kid-friendly war shows or your space westerns like The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. So it's like those are pretty much. It wouldn't take much to adopt them into a game, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then Lord of the Rings has had how many games? And has inspired how many other games? Like Warhammer Fantasy. Uh, take watch one video on any of the Total War Warhammer games, and it's dwarves, elves, different factions of men. Yeah, this is Lord of the Rings, so they do make it different from Lord of the Rings. But it and there's Elder Scrolls as well. It's like you got your dwarves, you got your elves, you got your orcs, you got your vaguely Anglo-Saxon people to the Lord of the Rings. Even though there's some like crazy stuff in the lore of Elder Scrolls, like we mentioned in our Dwarf Yetis with Guns episode,
Oh
that there
lord.
is a whole ass space station in Elder Scrolls lore. Well, let me pull up Taz's chat. Oh, Taz, I'm sorry for ignoring you, Taz. My bad. Uh, he says, I'd probably say John Wick. I don't think there are enough lesser fantasy sci-fi RPGs. Do you have anything to say about why you would pick John Wick? Except I could probably say you're going to choose it because you love guns and you love the gunplay. John Wick universe is badass.
That
You
do
know,
be true. I don't know much about it, but I mean, like the movies of John Wick alone are entertaining to watch every time.
yeah. Almost, like that would be a very neat plot. It's just like hidden order of assassins and mafia and mobsters, and it's like run through a fancy hotel, and they have their own currency and whatnot.
And I mean, like, as an RPG game, I could totally see that working, building up your own class of assassin to basically turn John into, and or your own custom assassin.
Taz has just said something between Watch Dogs and Morrowind. That sounds very interesting. Uh, do you have one, uh, Taryn?
Uh, this, give me another minute.
Okay. I'll take this moment to throw my hat in the ring. The one that comes to my mind would be the outlaw Josie Wales. Quick pause. It has another message. And to flip the question, Watch Dogs would make a very swag movie. Yeah, I could see that. It'd be like, I'd be. I haven't played Watch Dogs, but it sounds like a very high tech heist movie, like your Ocean's 11 or what's probably not Heat. What's I know there's like another type of like heist movie. Uh, fucking Fast and Furious movies are heist movies, right? But they just add in exorbitant amounts of car porn.
I mean, yes, but Watch Dogs I wouldn't really classify as a heist necessarily. It starts that way. Well, I mean, granted, I played a little bit of Watch Dogs 1 and I've mostly played Watch Dogs 2. And I know Watch Dogs 1 is from what I remember was very less like heisty in a sense. Like you were more. I'm completely blanking on the plot because, like I said, I didn't get to play a lot of Watch Dogs 1, but I just remember there was the whole plot with the main character and like watching over like his sister. And, like in particular, I remember the mission where like you literally chase down like your sister's stalker through like hacking his phone and then chasing him down and beating his ass.
The test says it starts that way. It's a sort of revenge story like John Wick. I think that would be very interesting. Uh, Visually, it would be pretty interesting because, like, they like imagine all the screens and whatnot, and like probably gonna be flashing with everything going on, and then
Yeah.
it's always like dark in Watch Dogs.
Well, and like Watch Dogs had some very cool effects in game to kind of like symbolize hacking and whatnot.
Like the world is full of hackers now. That'd probably make a lot of money. Oh, honey, you like computers. Let's go to the new hacker game. Chaz says again, Watch Dogs was only a year after GTA 5.
Yeah, because remember everyone kept calling it the GTA. Some people called it the GTA 5 knockoff or Ubisoft's GTA 5.
I
but
I don't know. I don't remember much about what I was doing 2012,
keep
2013.
compare. Yeah, it's
I'm pretty sure
definitely
I wasn't even in fifth grade in 2013 yet. Like 2012 was the year I moved to Wyoming, and I was second grade, I think. Was it 2011 or 2012 I moved to Wyoming?
I have no idea. As
Do
far as
you
I
remember
remember,
what
we just
years
up and
your second
disappeared
grade
one day.
was? Cass says, "Fuck the Watchdogs lore. We're getting the U lore." I guess
Okay.
referring to myself. I don't think there's a lot of lore. Uh, well, except some traumatizing stuff I'm not gonna say on screen. Wait, if you want some of my lore, go watch the very first episode. We called it, I can't remember, but it's the one with the samurai and Abraham Lincoln doges in the thumbnail. Go watch that video if you want lore about myself. Uh, let's okay. Let's guide this ship back on the topic, shall we? Uh,
Okay, I have to ask, when you say adapt a Western into an RPG, what do you mean by like basically a bit like Western made?
no, I meant the movie genre of because Outlaw Jersey Wales is a technically a spaghetti western, or what might be called an alternative western,
Hmm.
because it goes against the movies you would see, uh, the classic era of the 50s and the 60s, like what you would see John Wayne play in. Uh, with John Wayne movies, it's like very defined good guy, bad guy. Uh, everybody's clean shaven. The good guys are usually whites, and his opponents are often, uh, I guess, other villainous whites, but also a lot of his movies are about fighting Native Americans, and I think he does shoot up quite a few Mexicans, if I remember correctly. It's very much, it's like John Wayne movies are very much what you're like the kind of moral compass your boomer grandfather would have. It's like the man is in charge. He doesn't. The man is in charge. He gets to work, and by his own virtue, he wins. And the victory is the bad guy is dead at the end. With alternative westerns, one part is does bring in more actors of more characters that are people of color. Uh, Morality is very gray if there is a line. Like the first, let's take a look at the first spaghetti western ever, Fistful of Dollars. If have either of you watched Fistful of Dollars? Are either of you gonna
Mm,
care if I spoil it?
probably not, to be honest.
Okay. Fistful of Dollars is set in this border town where there's two opposing families. There's the Americans, the Baxters, who deal with all the alcohol, and then there's the Rojas brothers, who are the gun running uh crime family. And it's almost like a cold war between the two crime families. It'd be like if Machine Gun Kelly and Al Capone's crime syndicates were like stuck in a small rural town. And then in comes the very famous man with no name. This very gruff, unclean, Guys smoking cigars all the time. Comes into town. Comes into town. He asks around, and he's like, "I'm gonna join one of the crime families, and then pit them against each other, and then I'll come out of it rich somehow." And then what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying. So it's like through the movie, there's these different events of Joe and his two friends, the cantina owner and the coffin maker, trying, I guess, swindle the two crime families. In the beginning, Joe, he's called out once by the coffin maker. Uh, he pledges himself to the Rojas brothers after killing a group of Baxter's men, which is the context of the famous uh "My mule doesn't like you" laughing scene. Because the Baxter men like shot at his mule and it chased it and made it run down the street, and they all thought it was funny. Joe, the man with no name, goes back to the crowd they were all hanging out. He's like, he passes his coffin maker, three coffins, goes to the Baxter men. He's like, "My mule doesn't like it laughing. I'd like you to apologize." The Baxter men try to draw on him. Fucking quick as lightning, Clint Eastwood kills them all with fanning his pistol, which it's the pistol that he was using while filming the series Rawhide at the time. Because he was still filming, he was still the like uh trail foreman for the movie Rawhide at the time, and he had to bring a lot of his stuff from Rawhide because it was such a low budget film for Fistful of Dollars, including the pistol. I think it's boots and the hat. Those are all from Rawhide. But it's
Hmm.
funny because now Fistful of Dollars and the whole Dollars trilogy is much more famous than Rawhide. Anyway, so on and so forth. Uh, Joe gets hired by the guys, uh, but he has no loyalty to them. This is like in a classic Hollywood Western, would be the main character finds the good family, who are probably like a couple of poor Nester farmers or like honest ranchers that are getting all their stock rustled by the other outfit. But that's not the case, and the character would pledge loyalty and see the job through to the end, and then get the girl, and then live happily ever after. That's not the case here. Over the course of the movie, the Rojas brothers ambush both a American Army detachment, dress up as the American Army detachment, kill the Mexican Army detachment to keep the gold and the weapons that the two detachments were going to have a swap with. Joe sets up two bodies of two of the Mexican soldiers, make it look like they're alive, and they're going to have I guess, a trial of some sort with the Baxters and the Rojas brothers. That's it results in a shootout between the two families. Uh, later that at some point the Rojas set fire to the Baxter family home and shoots everyone that comes out, including Mrs. Baxter, a mom, which would be a no-go in the classic clean Western. Uh, Joe ends up gunning down a bunch of Rojas men and rescuing this woman that has basically become a sex slave to one of the Rojas brothers. He gets captured, gets the crap beaten out of him, uh, and then his cantina owner friend is captured. And then the final scene is Joe walking into town, shooting it out with the Rojas brothers. And then he just grabs a sack of gold and rides out into the sunset. So there's a
Huh.
very distinct tone with spaghetti westerns and classic westerns. And I am now questioning how the hell we got there.
I asked what you meant by Western, and you kind of just took off.
I'm sorry. Uh Also I'm sorry for ignoring you, Taz. I'll check the all you said is wait, Western? I thought you meant general movie. I did, but I think it was like when you went to get food when we were playing GTA the other day. And I had gone to the bathroom and I got this great idea to like talk about a Western movie I would turn into an RPG, and I was telling Taryn about it. And it's like, oh, this would probably be a podcast topic, but you should probably like move it to any movie and to keep it fair.
Well, I asked originally because admittedly I don't know a lot of like full on Western movies. But I will say, going off of Google's definition of what a Western movie, I can say I think I have two I would adapt into an RPG.
Okay. And it
And
doesn't have to be a Western, but go ahead.
I'll give you this one. I'm not fully sure how this one would translate into an RPG, but I still feel like it would be fun to make something out of All Quiet on the Western Front. Um, yeah, no, that could work as an RPG. Maybe not like like Elder Scrolls level RPG, but like,
It's a very character story, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
And it's like I guess
oh,
so it's like with most RPGs, because they're based off D&D and whatnot. There's usually like the big bad, like the villain you can see and you can uh tangibly fight against and defeat at the end, like Alduin or Sauron or Strahd. You can't really like plucky band of friends can't like defeat the war itself. So that
no, but
makes me think if we could use that, because like if we did make it into an RPG, we could really turn it on into its head. Imagine, if
yeah,
you will, the intro mission or the prologue is that famous classroom scene where their teacher is at the front and it's telling everybody about their patriotic German duty to the Kaiser and to the fatherland and all that. And it's like, oh, it's this wonderful, plucky story. All these friends, they're gonna go to the war, they're gonna be heroes. They're gonna whip the French. And then boom, World War One, Spec Ops the Line.
yeah,
Taz just sent the wide-eyed cookie eating emoji.
yeah. The interest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's definitely could be some room to make All Quiet on the Western Front into at least a pseudo RPG. Um,
It would be crazy as a game in of itself.
yeah. Um, as for my second choice, this one is much more lighthearted. Uh, freaking make which. Looking back, I realize there's already a video game about this, but I would go with freaking Ringo. I feel like
Oh,
You could
the
the freaking
lizard imposter syndrome Western movie.
yeah with freaking Johnny Depp. Yeah, Johnny Depp.
That
That
would be
one you could definitely make a more generic RPG out of, to be honest, because there is a big bad that you would end up facing at the end, and though he's the big bad, like it there's like three times in the movie where it switches on who like the big bad is, but like so that
and
one
then
could
it
definitely work
ends with
more.
the mayor actually being, the money greed, the greedy, swindling land developer.
Yeah. Like yeah, and like the first threat's the freaking bird. I guess technically there's four because then there's also the giant gang they take on.
The mole people they steal the water from.
Yeah. So I definitely say that one could definitely work more as a more generic RPG.
Yeah.
And
And
you
then
could
just
either
adding
go like,
more Rattlesnake Jake content would be awesome.
yeah,
Taz, do you have a second movie you'd like to talk about? It doesn't have to be a Western. He is a
thinking
cat
emoji.
hitting the thinking man pose. Okay, I'm gonna check how long it's been recording for. We're already at 32 minutes.
Hey,
Though it's usually when it's the three people podcast, we try to go for 45 minutes to an hour. So we should be fine. I think I should probably talk about my first uh suggestion, which is the Outlaw Josie Wales. Oh, Tess is wait. Taz has said
I hate you, Taz.
I'm done with you, man. They should make the Minecraft movie into a game.
Dude, imagine though, like a game where you can pick up blocks and build your own like world.
Would you believe me if I told you that was a game?
Insane.
It's called Terraria.
Oh my god.
Taz has just sent me the skull emoji.
Just seemed to
Then,
joke with Hasselminer Z.
um, isn't it crazy that it's got like 380 million in revenue already? And why it just came out and just released the theaters this week?
The Minecraft movie?
Yeah,
Not really. Like, I mean, yeah, those are big numbers, but like, it's Minecraft.
yeah,
There's going to be a bunch of younger kids and older people alike that are all. It comes with a built-in audience, is what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah.
there's no world where it could fail, even if it's.
Dog shit.
I'm not going to go into it because it's a whole other can of worms, but like,
And
there,
if
there's
they're marketing
there's no
something to
world
kids,
where, despite what one may personally think they should have done with the movie, where a Minecraft movie wasn't going to succeed.
yeah, it's it's like Marvel or Star Wars. You get the big, recognizable, popular brand. You make it that it's watchable for kids, and then there's gonna be Mr. and Mrs. Jones who don't go. who are only on Facebook to see their great aunt's dog or whatever, and they're gonna see that there's a Minecraft or a new Star Wars movie, and they're gonna go see it. Which this has worked on my family because my mom took us to see the Rise of Skywalker movie, and we had a great time, and I'm grateful that she took us because that was like an early Christmas gift 2019. But it's a stinker. It's a mess. But it was Star Wars. It was the last movie of the new trilogy. We had to go see it.
Sorry, freaking every you said stinker and Tez sent the emoji of my cat Stinker, and now I want to somehow figure out how to code Discord to every time someone says stinker, it just automatically puts the emoji in chat. Dude.
uh, Speaking of cats, you got a new one, Mr. Darren.
That is true. Since the 20 years it's been since we've done another podcast episode, I have acquired a new feline,
Do you
and
want to just talk about? Do you want to jump straight into talking about him, or do you want to talk about the fucking uh obstacle course, or just the absolute hell you had to go through
I'll
to get
keep
him?
the parts beforehand more private, but um I will just say there was a bit of a emotional roller coaster to
Yeah.
get to this part, but
Is it safe to say that this cat is like the third attempt to get a new cat that has finally stuck?
you technically he would be the fourth. But yeah, it was not an easy journey to get um a new cat, but alas, we got this sweet long-haired ginger boy, and oddly enough, with the topic of movies and adapting his name, picked by the shelter, but I kept it because it's pretty freaking good. It is the legendary Daryl Dixon.
Yes. I, he almost looks like Daryl actually because of like how poofy and out of control his fur is.
And the
And
long, yeah,
Norman
and you know, the fact
Reedus
that
has
he's a
not changed
long-haired
his
cat
hair in
too,
30 years.
and even more appropriately, um, when the shelter told us like where he was found, he was literally found fighting chickens in a chicken coop. Like he broke into the chicken coop to fight some chickens. So, boy is a natural born hunter.
Yeah. Oh, but chickens are vicious, though. I'm glad he got out okay.
Yeah,
It's kind of crazy where you find cats, huh? Lucky
yeah.
was narrowly rescued from becoming dog food, which I had at one point wanted to name him dog food. I think
Stinker
one of
was
the names I
born
wanted
in our
for him was
boat.
Towel. Like, I wanted to call him Towel. Uh, Taz, where did you get Joey? Facebook.
Facebook is a wild place.
Yeah. Uh, we're at only 8 minutes has passed since I last checked the time, and it feels way longer. So I guess it's because we're having so much fun.
That is true.
Um, Crap, let me think. Oh, can I just say how big Dylan looks? Like, granted, this is through your phone camera.
Oh,
This
Daryl.
is me looking through my fucking small ass Intel Chromebook, looking through your phone camera into a dark room where he's on the floor. Well, he looks ginormous for 6 months old. I was like, holy crap, he
He
looks almost as big as my cat, and my cat's almost a year old now.
and he, in theory, is going to get bigger because apparently I haven't. I didn't. I haven't really like looked at and like studied it myself, but according to my mother, he has pretty big feet for yeah a cat his size, which is a sign that he's gonna be a decently large cat when he gets older.
Yeah.
Maybe not like Maine Coon size, of course, but like
I mean, yeah,
he's
he
gonna be a
might
big
be a
boy.
mutt. That's kind of a Maine Coon looking face. And especially the way his hair is, 'cause those like big cats are very fluffy.
That is true, but like Maine Coons literally like they literally look like Khajiits. I'm gonna be honest. Like you look at a face of a Khajiit, especially from like ESO, and then you look at a Maine Coon, like
There's something there.
they look more wild. I guess is a better way of putting it.
Yeah. Uh, Apparently, Maine Coons are the descendants of the cats rescued from the French Revolution, the Marie Antoinette's household, and they were shipped off to Maine, and have just got busy when they got here.
Huh.
That's from the Cats 101 episode about them. I don't know how much that holds up now.
All I know is
Speaking
they're from
of
Maine.
late 18th, early 19th century French history, there was a plot that was growing in New Orleans to uh break Napoleon out of his second exile and bring him to New Orleans and set him up in the French Quarter.
Huh.
But he did die before it could get anywhere. So yeah, kids, if you want a crazy story for anything, just pick up a history book somewhere. I mean,
Just
look at
fucking
The
read a
Revenant,
book.
the story about a guy getting mauled by a bear and then traveling, what, several thousand miles while still bleeding and whatnot from getting mauled by a bear to have revenge. That's a real thing. Uh, in the early fur trapping days on Mountain Men, Jim Bridger and whatnot, there was the mountain man Hugh Glass was mauled by a she bear they called Old Ephraim, and everybody thought he was gonna die. Uh, the rest of the party had to go on without him because they were being chased by Native Americans, but they left two men behind. I know the two men were promised a reward to stay with him. There was a very young Jim Bridger, like he was still a kid at the time, and this guy named Tom Fitzpatrick. One day, Fitzpatrick sees a bunch of those Native Americans, and then he makes it back to their cabin and is trying to get them to go. Jim Bridger doesn't want to go because he doesn't want to leave their buddy, and Patrick's like, she's dead anyway. We gotta go. And they leave him with nothing except the blanket on it, the clothes on his back, and the blanket they covered him with. And they thought he was
Dang.
going to die surely or was already dead. And they told everybody that he died and they buried him. But this guy uh doesn't just will not go down. I think he ate a rattlesnake raw where they left him. He dressed up his wounds. And then he like crawled forever. Uh he got he got into a snowstorm, found a dead bison, opened it up, ate the liver raw and some other bits, traveled more, uh, ran into, I think it was the Cheyenne or the Lakota. They nursed him back to health. And then he made it all the way back to the little base the mountain men had made, the company he was part of. He sneaks in, corners Jim Bridger, but Hugh Glass lets him off because he was still a boy. And then he goes to find Fitzpatrick, but Fitzpatrick had, for some reason, joined the army and disappeared off the face of the earth.
As you do, I guess.
Yeah, that's so. I don't know what happened to Hugh Glass afterwards. Jim Bridger goes on to become the king of the mountain men. There's a town in Wyoming, I think that's still called Fort Bridger. Uh, we stopped there on our way back from. I lived in Wyoming. We went to Oregon, I think, to see my Aunt Sonia and her new baby. She just keeps popping out kids. Then we stopped in Fort Bridger to get gas, and then we went home back to Rollins.
Hmm.
Let's yeah, we're at 47 minutes. I'm just totally gonna abandon my thing for a movie I want to make into a game, but that's he's not even my favorite mountain man. There's all kinds of crazy stories. If you want to go onto Tubi or YouTube and look up Into the Wild Frontier, and it's this. If you've seen the TV series Gunslingers from the military channel, you'll kind of know it's like act the they got guys to play them, because they're actors, and it's acting out the events, but then they intersperse it with historians talking about it. So it's a very good show. Material culture is very good. And anyway, like one of my favorite mountain man is a guy named John Coulter. John Coulter was like the first mountain man. He was he went with the Corps of Discovery, the Lewis and Clark expedition, and at some point into the Rocky on their return trip when they were in the Rocky Mountains, he just decides to stay there because it's the Rocky Mountains. It's awesome. He's so we're talking like Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, and maybe Montana, and he stays there. But then one day he runs into a new fur trading expedition led by a man called Manuel Lisa, and he's crazy all on his own. And then he meets a couple of his buddies from the Corps of Discovery, and he hooks up with them. At one point, Manuel Lisa has set up this trading post so that Native Americans could come and trade for furs and get things like guns or knives or beads. And he sends Coulter and he tells Coulter, I want you to go to Santa Fe in what would become this territory and then state of New Mexico. I think it was called New Mexico then. I don't know. He tells Manuel Lisa tells Coulter to go to the Santa Fe and stop by every friendly camp of Native Americans and tell them about trading post. This guy spends like I think 1 year, 2 years in uh on the lam going to Santa Fe and then back. And on the way, he discovers a very special place. Do you gentlemen know of a certain let's call it a national park in northern Wyoming, southern Montana? There's a very famous TV show that came out that was named after this park.
Yellowstone.
Yes, John Coulter is the first white man to ever see
I just fucking mute
What would
myself.
become Yellowstone
Okay.
National Park. He sees Old Faithful. He sees the giant waterfall. He sees all the bubbling mud pits and
What
everything.
just happened? Why did everyone go silent?
Sorry, thing. Hello everybody. We had to take a small break to sort out some technical trouble. Uh,
Damn.
thank you for your patience. Uh, anyway, John Coulter. So John Coulter has the most enviable achievement of being the first uh, white American to see Yellowstone. I mean, Native American people have been seeing it for tens of thousands of years, as long as they've been in the area. Uh, he makes so goes to Santa Fe, comes back, tells all these Native American peoples about Manuel Lisa's trading port, and that and sees Yellowstone. And then he
Right.
gets back and he tells everybody back in the fur camp about all that he saw. But everybody thinks he's crazy. Cause like giant pots of like giant holes filled with boiling water, boiling mud, big geysers. They think he's crazy. This sounds like something out of a description of hell. And so that's and so the name sticks today. Coulter's Hell. There's a part of Yellowstone called Coulter's Hell.
Hmm.
Let's see here. Wikipedia. Coulter's Hell is an area of fumaroles and hot springs on the Shoshone River near Cody in the U.S. state of Wyoming. The thermal area covers about 1 square mile at the mouth of the Shoshone's Canyon. Its thermal activity has declined since its description by mountain man John Coulter, who participated who parted from Lewis and Clark expedition prior to its conclusion and passed through the region in the winter of 1807-1808. Coulter's account of the features of what was then called the Stinking Water River was subsequently been confused with much more extensive and powerful geysers in Yellowstone National Park, which Coulter may not have actually visited. So yeah, it's just this big place of boiling water. And just
Hmm.
naturally boiling water from all the volcanic activity. But we're not done with John Coulter. At some point, John Coulter and one of his friends, a guy named John Potts, decide to go into a new place for fresh beaver trapping. They think it's rich in beaver and they're gonna get a lot of pelts. There's a small problem. This area is deep into Blackfeet territory. And the Blackfeet were very famous for fighting mountain men. Were like always, excuse me, getting into fights with mountain men. Because they, of course, didn't like mountain men trespassing into their territory, but to the Blackfeet, a beaver was a sacred animal, and you're supposed to leave it alone. They're deep in Blackfeet territory doing this stealth mission of trapping, And one day they're out in their canoe and they're swimming and they're rowing their canoe along. And they hear this great noise. It's like a thunder, and it's big old. It sounds like a thunder of hooves, and they think it's a herd of bison because it's so loud. Well, they turn a bend in the river, and then they just suddenly come face to face with a bunch of Blackfeet warriors, like a whole bunch of them. Coulter decides to do the reasonable thing, and he surrenders to the Blackfeet, slowly anchors the canoe against the bank and gets out because he thinks he's gonna have a chance to get out of this alive. Potts doesn't want to get out. He rolls the canoe back out, pulls out his gun, shoots one of the Blackfeet. The remaining Blackfeet then pepper Potts full of arrows, and he's killed instantly. Well, now the Blackfeet are mad because one of their warriors has been killed. So they come up with a little fun game. They strip Coulter down, leaving him completely naked, and they tell him to start running across this field. Well, John bolts. He just runs as hard as he can, and he gets chased by a group of Blackfeet warriors. And they're running after him, and they're chasing him, and he loses them one by one, all except for one warrior. He has been running so hard and so long that blood vessels in his nose actively uh, burst, and there's blood
Ugh.
just running down his chest like he's been wounded. And he runs and runs until he absolutely cannot run anymore. And there's one young Blackfoot warrior that catches up to him, and they get in a scuffle. They're fighting over the spear that the warrior is holding, and in the middle of the fight, the spear is broken in half. John grabs the sharp end, and then he kills the warrior that was just trying to kill him, and then he runs again. This whole time he is trying to make it back to the river, and so he finally makes it to the river, and there's this abandoned beaver lodge. Just a beaver lodge is like a almost looks like a big pile of sticks, but there's a chamber uh, inside that the beaver live in that they've kind of like hollowed it out because the beaver doesn't actually live in the dam. It's like almost like a castle wall. The dam is what keeps the water in place. The lodge is where the beaver sleeps. Anyway, he gets into this lodge, and the water's like cold because it's Wyoming. I think it's like fall in Wyoming. The river's cold. The river is cold. The water in Wyoming is cold in the summer. Anyway, so he like hides stark naked, half submerged in this beaver lodge while the Blackfeet are actively out hunting him, wanting to kill him and scalp him. He only gets out after nightfall. Once he gets out, he starts heading back to the trading post where Manuel Lisa and the rest of the company is. And he travels like 200 miles stark naked and barefoot, subsisting almost entirely on like roots and whatnot. And then he finally makes it. And of course becomes an absolute legend.
Well, there's your next horror survival game right there.
That would be a hell of a fucking movie. It's like, how many chase movies are there now? Uh, there was Taken, which isn't a chase, it's a reverse chase movie. Uh, shoot. I'm running a blank there, but like there's Tessa's, there's hundreds.
There's
Yeah.
hundreds.
So it's like besides, we need more Mountain Men movies. Like I think there's like only three off the top of my mind. There's The Revenant, which I talked about. It's the Leonardo DiCaprio playing Hugh Glass. There's the absolute classic Jeremiah Johnson. And then there's one more from the same era called The Mountain Men, real creative title. And it's these two mountain men that like steal two Native American women to be their wives, and they go off in search of the El Dorado of beaver. It's like a place that's like running with beaver and never runs out. Uh, I think I watched it once when I was a kid, and I don't remember much of it. What what's the phrasing I need to work on?
Oh,
Uh,
wait.
what's beaver? Oh, shut up. Uh, Taz is trying to get onto me for saying beaver, because while it is the name of that big rodent that lives in the water and builds the dams, it's also slang for a woman's intimate parts. But surely the audience is smart enough to know we're talking about the animal.
I think mature enough is the real question. But
Yeah, and when I say an El Dorado of beaver, I mean there's lots of beaver, the animal, so that these guys can just hunt and get rich off beaver pelts. Does that satisfy you, Tez? I'm gonna just take that silence as an agreement. Uh, we're at a little over an hour just talking about movies and games. Do we want to end it now and then start a new part, or just end it and call it a night?
to you, Meng, I don't really have much more material for this one, so
Yeah, I think we've kind of milked this topic dry. I'd love to record another episode after this with you guys. Because I love talking with you and talking about these fun topics. Oh, we'll call it Games into Movies and Mountain Man Movies, or something of the like.
probably end the episode first before coming up with a title.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Uh, thank you, everybody. We are so glad you've chosen to watch this or listen to this podcast. Like, subscribe, only if you want to. We would, what we really want though is for you guys to write comments about either what movie you would want to turn into a game, any game really. I'm not reading that. Or talk about your favorite Mountain Man story, or because there's a whole bunch of them. There's Kit Carson, who becomes the quintessential mountain man, even more so than Jim Bridger. There's Jim Beckworth, a freed slave that goes on to be a war chief of the Crow Indian tribe, and then also becomes a member of the Cheyenne Native American tribe. Uh, there's Anne Dorian, a woman who her and her two sons are like the sole survivors of a Blackfeet attack on their trapping camp, and she has to take them on this big trek through the Rocky Mountains in the winter with like almost no food. And that's an amazing story. So tell us your favorite, or tell us ideas for a new Mountain Man movie, because Mountain Men share the same pedestal as the cowboy. Like we can't get enough of cowboys and mountain men. So really got to end it now. Thank you. Uh, Goodbye, everybody. Hope you enjoyed.
Goodbye.
And